Episode opens while Tabitha and Co. are back in Fromville. Stopping at the fallen tree, the paramedics suggest taking a detour as the crows start circling. But with Tabitha being in shock, all she can say is, it's not going to work, as she's rounded back into the truck by a police officer on board. At the Matthews house, there's another phone call, only this time Ethan picks up. It's Thomas, the entity on the end of the line says. Mom's in trouble. She's in an ambulance. You'll see. She's on her way. You have to help her, but you can't be afraid. Jim overhears and intercepts, telling the entity to leave his kids alone. But they're not your children anymore, it says, at which point he pulls the phone right off the wall. We cut to Colony House, where they're dealing with the aftermath of the tarot card bird incident. Bacta's asked to get rid of it, but she refuses, not wanting to absorb the bad vibes. She also gives Tilly a telling off, saying it's not the smartest idea doing tarot in a place like this. She's got a point. Fatima gets a check-in from Marielle, who confirms that she's looking a lot better since the last time she saw her. What she doesn't realize is it's down to the rotten veg she's been eating, which only Tilly knows about, for now. The scene cuts to a house where Sarah's helping Victor gather sheets for his fort, but she's still confused as to what they're doing. I told you, I have to remember, he says. When I was a boy, my mother tried to save everyone, but she died. And then everyone died, and I can't remember how, why. I think I need to remember soon. Too many things are changing. It's never snowed here before, he adds. Nightfall hits, and we cut to Tabitha and the ambulance. The paramedics, cop, and driver discuss turning around as they're going in circles. Knowing this is a death wish, Tabitha tries to convince them to keep driving forward towards the town. At Fromville, Boyd's in the coach with Randall, who's decided to stay on board with him. As part of his plan to catch one of the smiley monsters, Boyd wants to study them at night. Although there's tension between the pair, Randall admits that he wants to do anything he can to help the town get back home, especially after what happened to him, Julie, and Marielle. Everybody here just talks about how afraid they are of dying. Well, I don't think that's the worst thing that can happen to you here, he tells Boyd. I want out. Out by the lake, Christy wakes up in pain from her injury, only to find Kenny's already up. He's writing a letter to his late mother, and the pair have a heart-to-heart. It just feels like, all of a sudden, everything I was fighting for is gone, Kenny tells Christy. And the two people I would talk to about that are you and Mom. She reassures him, saying, you can still talk to me. Their chat accidentally wakes Jade up, who takes a drink from his flask before saying he's got something wild to tell them. Meanwhile, Sarah and Victor have finished the fort, and he starts sharing what happened the day his mom and sister died. When he came out from hiding the following morning, the whole town was dead. There were bodies everywhere, he says. That was the day that I met the boy in white. You know the boy in white? Sarah asks, with Victor replying, he's my friend. He was my only friend all those years that I was alone. The boy suggested gathering items that were precious to the dead, which Victor's now got in a suitcase in front of them. He's hoping they'll help him to remember what happened. Things get a little wild at this point. You see, Randall outlines the smiley creature's nightly habits, and for some reason, they're currently nowhere to be seen. As they stare out the bus windows, all of a sudden the ambulance drives through. Tabitha's desperately trying to tell the driver to stop, but it's no use. They all think she's just out of her mind. They do, however, stop when they see a body in the road, which of course turned out to be a monster. Tabitha tries to prevent them from stepping outside, but this only lands her in handcuffs. All she can do is watch on in horror as the creatures slaughter the two male paramedics, including the driver who runs into the truck with his guts hanging out. Jim decides to go out and see if the caller was right about Tabitha, with Boyd and Randall following him out to help. The remaining officer gets surrounded by monsters and runs away, leaving Tabitha handcuffed to the truck. As she wakes Henry up, the doors swing open. Tabitha and Jim are finally reunited. But their joy is short-lived when they all realize no one's got the keys for the cuffs. Randall heads over to the coach to retrieve a toolkit. The surviving cop makes it to the grounds of Colony House. She keeps shooting at the monsters as they close in, unaware that her bullets are useless here. As if things couldn't get any worse, one of her shots accidentally hits resident Nikki. As Marielle deals with the wound, the others are able to get the woman into the house, where Donna tries to calm her down. In town, Randall grabs the toolkit, but when he steps off the bus, he's approached by the smiley creatures. He throws the kit to Boyd before a swarm of cicadas surround him. Boyd wants to drive the ambulance away, but he can't find the keys. One of the monsters turns up, dangling them in front of him. They've been enjoying tormenting Boyd recently, and they show no signs of slowing. The creature says he can have the keys on one condition: they get to keep Randall. After thinking on it, he reluctantly grabs the keys and drives Tabitha, Jim, and Henry to Colony House, leaving poor Randall to be ravaged. At Colony House, Elgin is chatting with Tilly when he sees the kimono-wearing ghost again. She leads him into another room and pleads, "Help me," before vanishing into thin air. Julie and Ethan are at home, worried they'll lose both of their parents. Ethan urges Julie to open up about what happened to her, and she finally admits she's not been okay ever since the incident. "All I remember is being more scared than I ever have been in my entire life," she says. The pair embrace, agreeing to look after each other, no matter what. We cut to the cabin in the woods, where Jade's told Kenny and Christy about the hallucinations he had in Hev. He admits he's been having visions ever since he arrived in Fromville, revealing that Tian Chen gave him the journal from previous resident Christopher, containing sketches of the symbol. Their chat is interrupted by a banging from outside the cabin. Back in the fort, Victor talks Sarah through the various deceased townspeople and their belongings before realizing there's nothing for Christopher. If you cast your mind back to from season 2, you may remember this name. Christopher was a friendly member of the community when Victor was a child. He started to turn scary after having visions of the symbol, similar to those seen by Jade. In the present, the memory triggers an emotional response from Victor, who loses it and destroys the fort. Sarah manages to calm him down, at which point he says, "I know what's missing." His name was Jasper. As he's saying this, we see a flashback to Christopher, who's playing with the ventriloquist dummy Jade kept seeing in season 2. This would support the long-running case, from theory that the entities are manifestations of residents' fears, but this is yet to be confirmed. Everyone at Colony House is dealing with the aftermath of the night's events. Boyd tells Donna about Randall, while Tabitha fills Jim in on everything that happened in the real world. Downstairs, things are going from bad to worse for Nikki, who starts moaning in agony and vomiting blood. "She's bleeding internally," says Marielle. She tries to resuscitate her, but it's no use. Nikki becomes another casualty of the town. Boyd loses it with the ambulance officer. Clearly, he just wants to take his anger out on someone. Donna steps in and orders Boyd to come upstairs to talk with her. As soon as they shut the door, Donna breaks down, asking, "Why is this happening? Why is this just one thing after another after another? Why can't they leave us alone?" Boyd comforts Donna as she admits she's scared. Meanwhile, Victor reveals more about the ventriloquist doll, whose name was Jasper. "Christopher would make us all laugh. People didn't laugh much back then, so it was very nice that we could," he says. But then Christopher started seeing the symbol, and he changed. He didn't make us laugh anymore. I remember Christopher started spending more and more time alone. One day, when he was a kid, Victor saw Christopher having a full-blown argument with Jasper, which was talking and moving on its own. At the end of their fight, the doll opened its mouth and screamed, in the exact same way it did when Jade envisioned it in from season 2. "Jasper's the one who can tell us what happened," says Victor. Over at Colony House, things take a sinister turn for Fatima. If you thought the rotten crops were bad, they're nothing compared to what she craves next: Nikki's blood. Fatima asks Ellis for some time alone with her, making out like she wants to offer her a posthumous apology for being mean to her the other day. However, the mum-to-be's urges get the better of her, and she starts dipping her fingers into the gunshot wound and hungrily licking the blood off her fingers. In other words, it's getting more likely by the day that the baby is a monster. In the final scene of from season 3, episode 4, Boyd and Donna have a strong drink. The lights from the ambulance flash outside. When they go to take a look, they see a bloodied Randall on the hood of the truck. It looks like he's dead, until he suddenly opens his eyes and starts spluttering. Perhaps the monsters kept him alive to create more division. After all, Randall's not going to be happy knowing Boyd sacrificed him.